Welcome back to The Wandering Screen. I'm Matt Koss, and today I'm looking at my predictions for the Oscar nominations, which come out next Thursday on the 22nd of January. Today is Friday, January 16th. It's the last day of voting, and they've been voting all week. So I think it's a really exciting time to start talking about who the predictions will be in the main categories. I won't be covering every category because there's quite a few, but I'm going to do the main ones, including acting and also for feature and director too. This year has been a fantastic year of film. I think we've already seen from a lot of the award shows that have happened, like the Critics' Choice and the Golden Globes, that there are a lot of categories that could go any which way. There's a number of people or films within each category that are deserving, and it's not really clear which way voters for the Academy Awards are going to go. And last year, we saw Anora take out a lot of the awards, which was very surprising to me, but I think it's also reflective of the new voting body within the Oscars. So I'm really excited to go through the categories today. I am first going to start with the Best International Feature. Now, Neon, the independent studio, has done really well with their list of international films. And I think it's very clear what the first four films in this category, or actually, I'm going to say the first three films in this category are going to be, because we know that The Secret Agent is going to do well and it's going to get an international feature nomination, along with It Was Just an Accident and also Sentimental Value. I think those are surefires. And where we start to see a little bit more of who knows what's going to happen scenario, I'm going to first put in South Korea's No Other Choice. I think it's a film that has really resonated with audiences, and it's not as hard to watch as Surat was. If anyone has seen Surat from Spain, it's quite a difficult film about a father and I think his son or maybe his daughter's son. Anyway, they're looking for the missing woman at some raves in the desert, and they go on a trip to try to find her, and there's devastating consequences, and it's not an easy watch, but it's like incredibly well made. So I think No Other Choice is going to get in there. And then I also think Taiwan's Left-Handed Girl is actually going to make the top 5. I think that there's something to be said for the Netflix push that this film has been available on Netflix. And I think if people have just given it the time to watch, that it will get a nomination. And I think that Surat is the possible upset in this category, not in the sense that it would be shocking if it was nominated, but in that it very much is amongst that top 5 and would be interchangeable with Left-Handed Girl or No Other Choice. And what should have been a contender is Argentina's Bellin, but I'm not sure that it's going to make it this year. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to move on to Best Supporting Actress. I was going to go through the screenplay categories, Best Original, Best Adapted. And here's my take on Best Adapted Screenplays, just by the way. I haven't read the source material of anything that has come out this year. Not Train Dreams, not Wicked, not Hamnet. So I think the adaptation situation, I'm not sure if voters read both the source material and then the script itself, but I wouldn't want to put my predictions on how someone best adapted a story, an article, a novel, whatever it was, because I just don't know. I haven't read the source material, so I don't know if it's a great adaptation or not. But I want to jump to Best Supporting Actress because this is a really tough category. And we've had the actor nominations come out, which was previously called the SAG Awards. Not sure why they changed it. I'm still going to call it SAG Awards, just like we call X Twitter. But for this category, I think 4 out of the 5 actor nominations are actually going to get an Oscar nomination. So we have Ariana Grande for Wicked for Good. We have Amy Madigan for Weapons, Wunmi Mosaku for Sinners, and Tiana Taylor for One Battle After Another. And I think those are really possible predictions for this category. And the other nominee for the actor awards was also Odessa Zion for Marty Supreme. Now, I'm not sure if she's going to get a nomination here because I think we've got two actresses from Sentiment Value, Inga Absdotter Lilias, and also Elle Fanning, that could very much be an upset in this category. Ultimately, I think Inga Absdotter Lilias is actually going to get a nomination within this category. But the possible upset is, of course, Odessa Zion, who's really been working the circuit. She's been everywhere. People are talking about her. She's also had I Love LA, the series on HBO, come out. HBO Max, HBO Max, I don't know. But she's definitely a rising star, and I can see her being an upset in this category. And I also want to talk about who should have been a contender, because let's face it, one of the most underseen, underappreciated movies this year that went straight to streaming and should have had a theatrical release is Hedda, directed by Nia DaCosta, and we know that her next film for the 28 Years Later franchise just came out this weekend. So I'm hoping that people are actually going to go watch Hedda, but it might be a little too late because Nina Hoss is absolutely fascinating in the movie, and she has such an incredible arc that really is the consequence of this Hedda character played by Tessa Thompson, and how Hedda wields her influence onto people that really admire and love her. And Nina Hoss plays a woman that becomes a victim to Hedda's scheming, and she's absolutely fantastic. And I also think that Sissy Spacek in Lynn Ramsey's Die My Love should have been a contender in this category. I think that she's an emotional and soulful centerpiece to the film, where Jennifer Lawrence's character is otherwise, suffering through a postpartum depression, but also a significant depression at that. And Sissy Spacek is very much a grounding sort of figure who has lived a lot of life and is offering Jennifer Lawrence's character a lot of assistance and help and perspective that she ultimately doesn't want to take. And she's very effective in the film. So I would have loved to have seen her be a part of the conversation a bit more, but unfortunately, I don't think she's going to get a nomination here. And then let's move on to Best Supporting Actor. And once again, we've got a list of nominees from the Actor Awards. We have Benicio del Toro for One Battle After Another, who I think will get a nomination, along with Sean Penn for One Battle After Another. It's interesting because we don't know if their votes are going to be split between them and then another contender is going to rise up, which would be really fantastic, because do you need two people from one movie, especially when there's so many movies that have come out that people have really responded well to? So Paul Mescal is also nominated for Hamnet, and he was also nominated for an actor award. So it's going to be interesting to see which other two spots are filled. And Miles Canton from Sinners was also nominated, but I don't think he's going to get a Best Supporting Actor nomination here. I think that he's a shoo-in to get a Best Original Song, but not necessarily the acting. And the Best Original Song that he has is called Last Time I Seen the Sun. And I think that's a surefire to actually get a nomination. But where amongst the Benicio del Toro, Sean Penn, and Paul Mescal, who else gets a nomination here? Well, we just saw Stellan Skarsgård win the Golden Globe for Best Supporting Actor. So I think that he is probably going to get an Oscar nomination here. And then we have one more spot. And I really think that voters are going to respond really well to Sinners, which is kind of getting a little bit of a resurgence now, especially after the Golden Globes, after it won the Best Box Office Achievement Award, and not much else. And I think there's a lot of redeeming that needs to happen because it's such an effective film. And I think we also need proof that the timeline throughout the year of theatrical releases should not matter. Because if a movie like Sinners comes out in April, it should still be in contention for the Oscars. So I would love to see Delroy Lindo nominated. I think that he was the most effective supporting cast member in the film. I think a possible upset is Adam Sandler, and there's so much love for Adam Sandler at any of the awards. And he's so good in Jay Kelly as well. I wish that the film had been written better. And I wish that Adam Sandler's arc in the film had been a lot stronger. But he's so beloved that I wouldn't be surprised, especially after a premiere at Venice, that he would get a nomination. And there's a bunch of actors that I think should have been a contender, besides Miles Canton as well for Sinners, but also William H. Macy for Train Dreams, who I thought was absolutely outstanding and understated. And you don't always need a supporting cast member to have a visceral, emotional reaction in a film. It's someone, to me, a supporting category is someone that really lingers. And, someone like Tiana Taylor, who only appears in the beginning of One Battle After Another, she really, had a mark on that film, so much so that I was waiting for the entire film for her to come back. And I think likewise, William H. Macy does that in Train Dreams, that he has such a lingering effect, especially on Joel Edgerton's character, that William H. Macy should have been a contender. Also, Billy Crudup has a short time frame in Jay Kelly, and he's the best part of Jay Kelly. And I think that he should have been a contender here, along with Tonatia for Kiss of the Spider Woman. Now, this film has, of course, been underseen because people are not talking about it enough. And look, if it's competing against Wicked for Good or any of the, both the Wicked movies, it's really not going to do much against them. But Tonatia's performance is really fascinating because he plays two selves. There's the imaginary self in the world that he's sharing a story with Diego Luna's character, and then there's the self within the prison who's struggling to keep his equilibrium, trying to get home actually, by getting his cellmate to talk. And he's a much more free character in terms of his clothing, in terms of his mannerisms, compared to within the fantasy world, which is much more masculine self. And I think both of those together creates this really sublime and captivating performance. So I wish Tonatia had been a contender too. Also, Jacob Elordi was nominated for an actor. Let's not forget him. I'm just not sure how much the performance is going to resonate now. Especially when there's so many actors in this category and ones that weren't, completely covered up in makeup. I do think that he was effective in the role, but I think it is a good performance, not necessarily a nominated performance. Now let's move on to Best Actress. And I think the surefire nominations are going to be Jessie Buckley for Hamnet, Rose Byrne for If I Had Legs, I'd Kick You, and Chase Infinity for One Battle After Another. They're all nominated for an actor as well. And I can totally see them getting nominations here. I also think Renate Reinsve for Sentimental Value is a surefire, just because the film has done so well and it's so palpably visible in all of the end of year lists, in all of the categories. She did miss out on an actor nomination, which I did find interesting. Emma Stone did get nominated for Begonia. But I think the last slot of the Best Actress And this is a fingers crossed sort of moment because this is a very underseen film. This is more underappreciated than it deserved. It should have been as big as The Brutalist, but this is Mona Fastvold's The Testament of Anne Lee, which is such an original biopic with Amanda Seyfried at the front of it as the founder of the Shaker movement. And she is so phenomenal in this. She's amazing in everything she does. I mean, go watch The Housemaid. Like, she's really great in that too. But, I really hope that she does get the last slot in the Best Actress category because it's such a deserving performance. And that's not to say that the possible upsets of Emma Stone or Jennifer Lawrence for Die My Love aren't deserving either. I think Emma Stone, she's won a lot of Oscars at this point. And Begonia is a fantastic film. It's not one of my favorite films of the year, but it's expertly done, of course. And Jennifer Lawrence of Die My Love is really fantastic, but I'm not sure enough people have seen it either who would be voting for these Oscar categories. Now, who should have been a contender? I'm sorry. Tessa Thompson should have been a contender. She should have been in this for Hedda, of course. And also Julia Roberts. Look, I'm going to say it. I really enjoyed After the Hunt. I enjoyed its complexity. I enjoyed its conversation starter narrative. I enjoyed how difficult it was for a lot of people to enjoy as well, because I think the more divisive a film is, the more it appeals to me, actually, because it's so great to just be able to talk to people about it, and especially people that comment on my videos. I've really appreciated it. And it would be great to see Julia Roberts get a nomination here. She should have been a contender. I don't think she's actually going to get one. Then we have Best Actor. And once again, we've got a whole slew from the actor nominations that got nominated, but also we're missing someone very significant. So Wagner Moura, who won the Golden Globe for The Secret Agent, didn't actually get an actor nomination. But I think he's going to get a Best Actor Oscar nomination. And then we have Timothée Chalamet for Marty Supreme, Leonardo DiCaprio for One Battle After Another, and Michael B. Jordan for Sinners. Now, those four, I think, are definitely going to get a nomination. Then that last slot is either going to be taken by Joel Edgerton for Train Dreams, Ethan Hawke for Blue Moon, or Dwayne Johnson for The Smashing Machine. Now, Ethan Hawke got the actor nomination for Blue Moon. He's really fantastic in it. It is another underseen film, unfortunately. It's very wordy, but it's Richard Linklater directed, and Richard Linklater and Ethan Hawke are a partnership as beautiful as Ryan Coogler and Michael B. Jordan. A lot of Richard Linklater's films, especially the Before Sunrise, Before Sunset, Before Midnight films, they're all walking and talking films. And Blue Moon essentially is the same thing, except within a bar setting. And instead of walking, you've got a bar stool. And I think that they achieved the exact same thing with Blue Moon in making it fascinating through the conversations that are happening. And I think Ethan Hawke would be just as deserving here. Dwayne Johnson, I really admire for taking a step out of his comfort zone and trying something different. I'm not sure that enough people liked The Smashing Machine enough for him to get a nomination. So I would say the last spot in the actor category is between Joel Edgerton and Ethan Hawke. Now, who should have been a contender in this category? Well, Lee Jung-hun, of course, for No Other Choice, should have been a contender, but I don't think he's going to get it here. Then we also have Jesse Plemons, who got the actor nomination for Begonia, and I really think that he is so deserving for that performance. With every role that he does, he gets better and better, and this is such a fascinating role that it's even more fascinating on the rewatch. And I think, similar to the Best Supporting categories, where the supporting role has such an impact on the film itself, I think the Best Actor categories really say something about the rewatch value and wanting to watch their characters again and seeing what they're doing. And, not necessarily Brendan Fraser in The Whale, but Jesse Plemons in Begonia, and really seeing, the confluence of the writing of the screenplay with his performance and seeing how everything unfolds again. It's got great rewatch value, kind of like how Tar with Kate Blanchett had really great rewatch value. And then I also think that Dylan O'Brien deserved a recognition for Twinless, a massively underseen film, which actually just came to Hulu for anyone in the US that has Hulu / Disney Plus / Fox / ABC / who the hell knows what else. He plays a dual role of twins who are vastly different, and he could have easily been nominated for supporting role as well for playing Rocky. But he's got such an affecting performance in Twinless, and he's so captivating every time he comes on screen that I think he really should have been a contender here. Then we're coming into Best Director, and this is really hard, okay? This is tough because let me just say, there's a lot of great direction from veteran directors in the industry. And when you have someone like Guillermo del Toro or Martin Scorsese, Clint Eastwood, or, all the veteran filmmakers, when they make a movie, it's suddenly Christopher Nolan, James Cameron, it's suddenly assumed that they should be nominated for Best Director because they released a movie. And I very much disagree with that. It doesn't mean that they've made the best movie of the year. It doesn't mean that they're the best director. However, who we're seeing now in the conversations are very much deserving of the nominations. I just wish there had been more contenders who are newer voices up and coming, who have fantastic direction in their film. So let's first start off with the DGA nominations, because I think 4 of the DGA nominated directors are actually going to get nominated in this category. So we have Paul Thomas Anderson for One Battle After Another. We have Ryan Coogler for Sinners. We have Josh Safdie for Marty Supreme, and Chloe Zhao for Hamnet. And look, is there anyone in this category that I would replace? For Marty Supreme, no. It's fantastic direction. Sinners, definitely not. One Battle After Another, just that final sequence on the roads in the desert was enough to score him a nomination. And Hamnet is just one of the most gorgeously human films that I've ever seen, actually. So they're all equally deserving. Joachim Trier for Sentimental Value, he might get the nomination here. It's a fantastic film. It didn't resonate with everyone. The title might have been an issue, but it is very well directed. He's a fantastic director, and if he doesn't get the nomination here, he certainly will again in the future, hoping that he works with Renate Reinsberg for a 3rd time. And then the possible upsets here are also Jafar Pahani for It Was Just an Accident, which was gaining a lot of momentum before the Christmas New Year's break and hasn't really been spoken about as much recently. So I'm not sure if he's actually going to get the nomination here. But then there's also Guillermo del Toro for Frankenstein, who got the DGA nomination. And it's a fantastic film. You give Guillermo del Toro a massive budget, he's going to make massive set pieces, he's going to do a fantastic film. However, I don't think he's the best director in this category or to take one of those 5 slots. Now, who should have been contenders in this? I mean, I said it before, Mona Fastvold for The Testament of Anne Lee. She should have been nominated. It's such a fantastic film. It's brilliantly realized. It's also a musical, and, she hinted at it last year at the Santa Barbara Film Festival. And then when it actually came out, it feels so much less of a musical than Wicked, for good, of course. But it's just the sequences where the Shakers are really, presenting their spiritual shaking, so well done, so well choreographed, that she deserves a nomination. I also think that Mary Bronstein deserves a nomination for If I Had Legs, I'd Kick You, the Rose Byrne starrer. I think the direction is fascinating. I feel like it's one of the most grounded films of the year. And that she's also a newer voice really deserves recognition here as well. And Clint Bentley for Train Dreams is just a mesmerizing film. It's like reading a storybook, to a young kid, but it's like absolutely heart wrenching, and it just unfolds in this most lyrical way that I absolutely adored, and I loved seeing it on the big screen. I'm so glad that I got the opportunity to see it on the big screen. I really think it deserves a nomination here, not just for what it says, but also for what it doesn't say. And it doesn't say a lot because Joel Edgerton, really doesn't have a lot of dialogue here, and it's all told through the eyes and facial expressions and just through the cinematography by Alfonso Veloso. Like, it's just absolutely fantastic. If Clint Bentley got a nomination for Best Director, you'll hear me cheering. You'll hear it. So then we have Best Picture. Now, whew, it's tough. Look, there's 10 slots, all right? We pretty much know where they're going to go. I think it's more interesting to say what's not going to get in there, which I don't think Wicked for Good needs to be in this category for Best Picture. It got it for Wicked, the first movie. It doesn't need for the sequel. It wasn't as popular. It wasn't as, effective. It wasn't as great. I saw it twice, unfortunately. But the craft behind it is so essential because it absolutely leaps off the screen. And I don't think the film will miss out on nominations for the craft. But whether it deserves Best Picture, I don't think so. But let's go through the Producers Guild nominations. We've got Begonia, Frankenstein, Hamnet, Marty Supreme, One Battle After Another, Sentimental Value, and Train Dreams. And I think all 7 of those are surefires for the Best Picture category. I think what might also get in there is The Secret Agent, because it's a really fascinating film. It did well at the Golden Globes. I think that, within the realm of international films making it into the Best Picture category, I think that's going to get in. Avatar Fire and Ash, I'm not sure will make it in. It's definitely going to get a lot of craft nominations. But it's a very effective film. Is it, a Best Picture nominee just because it exists? Not necessarily. Instead, I would put Weapons in there. I would put It Was Just an Accident in this category instead. And I would put The Testament of Anne Lee. I also don't think that we can look past documentaries, because I think one of the best documentaries I've seen in years is The Perfect Neighbor, which is on Netflix. It's the told through body camera story of a black woman that was killed by someone who was essentially standing their ground inside, but also should never have shot her gun. And how the case unfolds with the community that lives there and with the reactions to the murder that happened. It's incredibly fascinating. It's one of my favorite films of the year. I think it's so deserving of a Best Picture nomination. If anything, take Frankenstein out and put Perfect Neighbor in. I also think that a little small movie called East of Wall deserved a lot more attention. It's kind of this like documentary narrative hybrid of a family that sell horses. And it's really fascinating if you can find it. It's got an incredible performance by Tabitha Zimiger. And her family also appeared on TikTok, which is how the filmmaker found them. And I think that East of Wall definitely deserved a place here. But I think ultimately the top 10 Best Picture nominees are going to be Train Dreams, Sinners, Sentimental Value, The Secret Agent, One Battle After Another, Mighty Supreme, Hamnet, Begonia, Weapons, Frankenstein. Is Avatar going to get in there? I don't know. But I think it's really interesting that we have so many amazing films this year that it's really hard to tell where the 10 spots are going to go to. And that's really it from me. I can't wait to see what happens on Thursday. I want to know your thoughts. I'm dying to hear what you think of my selections, but also who you think is going to get nominated. I want to hear your outlandish takes. I want to know who's the left of center person you think is going to get a nomination, because it does happen. Remember Andrea Riseborough? She also got a nomination. So thank you so much for watching. Let's see what happens on Thursday, and see you next time.